The Evermore podcast is now sponsored by WFST Total Compliance. WFST provides fire safety requirements UK-wide to prepare you and your employees should the worst happen. Do what you do best and visit wfst.co.uk today. Enjoy the episode.
Let's go!
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back on the Wednesday night. I've got the Rodders to my Del Boy, the Robin to my Batman, Marcus with me. And also tonight, he's wearing two hats, really. He's normally the PK blinder, but tonight he is Paul Carter Esquire III from the Newcastle United Supporters Trust. How are we, lads? You okay?
I'm very good, thanks, Chris. I'm going to behave myself tonight and try not to swear.
I was going to say, I'm not sure we'll know who this man is tonight, Mark. You know, he's not. Trust hat is on tonight firmly for Mr. Carter. So now, but obviously the reason Paul's here, guys, is we are going to talk a little bit about the upcoming elections for the Newcastle United Supporters Trust. It's a brilliant organisation that obviously Paul's involved with. A few of the Evermore lads have been involved with on and off over the last couple of years, but Paul is firmly a board member. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit of Newcastle United before we get stuck into that. But just before we get going, if you're new to the channel, you're just checking us out for the first time, as I always say, please click that subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. We're closing in on 3,300 now, Mark. We're very close, aren't we? Very close to 3,000 subs. So thank you so much to everybody who smashed that button over the last few weeks. It's been incredible. We're absolutely loving it. We love the fact you enjoy the content, and we're planning to bring you as much as we can. And we are live tonight, so please jump in the comments. We've already got a few comments flying in there. Carl was in early doors. He's had his Weetabix. He's ready for this. Good evening. Is Ash there? Cheeky little tongue-in-cheek. I love that, Ash. Tacoin is in the house. Good to see you. And BT, the ever-present, is there as well. So just before we get stuck in to the trust, Paul, there was something I just wanted to cover with you lads. It kind of does dovetail in a little bit about the trust as well. But obviously we were talking about the Arsenal game of the weekend. We don't want to talk about the defeats too much. We don't get beat much this season to Newcastle United, so we're not going to dwell on it. But one of the big things that come out of the defeat was some of the issues with the crowd. Mark, just coming to you on this. I mean, it was around social media quite a lot that there was more than one Arsenal fan that managed to get a ticket for the game, and that's above all Newcastle United fans who couldn't get a ticket. You know, myself included. It seems to be happening more often. The more successful we are, the bigger the draw the fixture. These fans are sneaking in. And listen, I know it happens in football all over the country, right? But there is kind of an unwritten rule when you're sitting in the home end that you shut the fuck up and you don't behave like an absolute bellend, like obviously that one guy did on Twitter. But is this a big concern, Mark, that our own fans can't get tickets and these guys are getting them? Is this something that the club need to look at?
Probably to see how they've done it. Like if they bought them through other fans, that to me is that's more annoying to me. You know, if they've bought them off, you know, online, it's one thing, but how are they getting the tickets before some of the other fans? What I would question is, I would almost guarantee that some of those fans have got in because they've bought them from season ticket holders. We've seen that happen before. It's a mate of a mate, but then you've got to. You're right. If you're going to sit in a home end and you're the away side, you keep stum. I've done it myself. You can't, because you're just asking for trouble, and you can't act like an absolute bellend. You stand and you clap at the right times, and you smile inwardly when your team scores. But that's it. You can't end up doing that, because this is going to happen. And look, it's not the first club it's happened to. It won't be the last. Yes, I think the club have to look at it. They have to look at how those fans got into those positions. Ultimately, I'm not entirely sure there's an awful lot they can do, because there will always be a way around it. But I think my biggest problem is just how slowly the stewards and anybody was to react to stuff going on. That fight was going on for what felt like 10 minutes before anybody actually turned up.
Yeah, I mean, in front of kids as well, Paul. That just wasn't good. I mean, before you kind of get that trust cap on, just as a fan who goes to the games. I mean, that, you know, if you're in the family enclosure like that, you know, and you've got young kids around you. I mean, to be fair, just, you know, making a little bit light of a bad situation. I love the fact that when he was dragged down the stairs, there was a boy who must have been about 8 going like that to him as he walked past, which made me chuckle a little. That's just typical Mags behaviour, mate. Really, but on a serious note, I mean, you know, he could have kicked one of the kids. It could have been some serious damage done there. And the stewards weren't great. I mean, our own Lee Forster sits a couple of rows back from that actual incident. And he said somebody did go and tell the stewards. And it was, you know, the reaction was really, really poor. I mean, I suppose kind of dual caps PK as a supporter, but also on the trust side. You know, is this something that the club is taking seriously here and they need to engage with the stewards?
Yeah, it definitely is something that the club are aware of it. I mean, you know, the video's done the rounds, hasn't it? We saw it. So I obviously, as you know, I sit in the Leazers end, and my mate pointed it out to me, and he could see in level 7 there was a proper kerfuffle. You could see the orange high vis vests, but unfortunately, I just don't think they're well enough trained to be able to deal with it. And it was almost mob mentality. The fans were dragging him out, not the the stewards. In the end, from what we saw and from what I've seen on those videos. But yeah, I know Lee was really close to it, and he gave us a bit of a running commentary on it afterwards, didn't he? But it goes on at every club. Newcastle are the most accommodating fans in the world. They're the friendliest fans in the world. You know, there's Arsenal fans in the pub before the game, and you know, it's just friendly banter. There's never any bother. There's never any segregation. There's never any home-only pubs in Newcastle. You know, Arsenal fans or whoever are always welcome to drink in the pubs that Newcastle fans are in. If they come into the ground for one reason or another, then they should have a little bit of respect. You know, he was probably full of drink. He was giving it big. Apparently, he was throwing bottles around, which is, you know, it'll be in plastic bottles in the ground, but it's not the point. It's just, it's out of order. It happens. It's out of order. There is a way around it, and I think it's something we probably will, as a trust head, here we go, put the cap on. My friend, well, you know, my friend Chris, he's a Manchester City fan. They have their tickets loaded electronically on their phone now. So there's no card. He doesn't have a season card anymore. It's electronic. And if they can't make the game, you always see a lot of empty blue seats at the Etihad. We all take the mickey out of Man City fans for it, right? But tickets are sold out. They have 99% capacity to our 98, I think. So they're effectively top of the league. Well, it's top of being top of the league. They're top of the leaderboard, and that's because I think part of that is it's very difficult to shift an individual's ticket on to another fan or whatever. What they do is they are encouraged to resell their ticket on a particular Manchester City run website, and that website is for members who are Manchester City fans, effectively. Whether you can become a member if you're another fan, I don't know. But then I think he then can effectively electronically sell that back to the club for someone else to take that seat. So it would be a home fan. Whether Newcastle can do that, whether there's too many people that still don't want that electronic side of it, I don't know. But it's a great
comment by Ticoin there. Don't let your phone go dead, and also don't require internet connection because there's no goddamn signal in the ground either, or any 4G connection. So that would be a problem.
He puts it in his. You know, he's got a bit of advertising for Apple, right? Wallet, he puts it in the wallet, and it goes up against the ticket machine. It's probably a cost implication to the club, but whether that's something that us or members are interested in, if there's any members who are interested in that, email us through board@nufctrust.co.uk, get me out on again. Then it's something, that's the kind of thing that we can raise as board members of the trust to the club, because we have the communication with the club.
Just before we get into the nitty-gritty of the trust and the elections, Paul, which is obviously why why you're here tonight. Sure. Ticketing is quite a high priority for the trust, and the trust do an end-of-year survey, don't they, to engage with the members as to what the biggest concern is in terms of amongst the fan base. And I like that idea, I really do, because it might not be this, it might be something else, but you'll take a collective from the members, and you'll obviously look at the I suppose the biggest percentage of issues, and ticketing appears to be right at the top of the agenda, certainly after the cup final, mate, doesn't it? Because a lot of people disenchanted after that.
Ticketing is the number one issue, isn't it? How do you get your sons and daughters, grandsons and granddaughters into the ground? We've seen how difficult it is to get tickets. As a member, if you're a member and you go on, you are you're running the rat race. Basically, you log in at 9:30, 10:15, you try and get a ticket, and there's 25,000 people ahead of you. It's just impossible, you know. So yeah, ticketing, we do end of every season. There's a long survey that will cover a multitude of everything, but ticketing is, you know, if you were to run a snap survey, I think of the 10,500 plus members that we've got, I bet you 75 to 80% of concerns is ticketing, how to get home tickets, how to get away tickets, what do we do with the ground, etc., etc. Well, so much to cover around ticketing.
Which, I mean, we'll get into the trust in a minute, but I mean, we're on the cusp of obviously Europe, depending on which European competition it is. We're going to be in Europe. And now I remember going to European games, Mark, me and you went to quite a few, didn't we, back when we were in there last time. And the best part about it was the blend of the fans. You know, we had fans from, you know, Holland and fans from other places, and they were drinking with us in the boozers, as PK says, before and after the game, and they were in the ground. And there was a real feel-good factor in amongst that. And I really hope that this kind of shitbaggery doesn't, if that's the word, shitbaggery doesn't creep in to match days where you get, you know, people like that. I mean, to be honest with you, there's something that we haven't raised, Mark. I think the time of the fixture was dreadful by the Premier League. To go on a bank holiday Sunday at 4:30 and give people all that time to get pissed. Either the Arsenal fans would have come up either the night before or on the train in the morning, drinking all the way there. You got a 4:30 kickoff. Everybody would be well lubricated. By that point, they were asking for trouble. In my opinion, they should have pulled it back, I think, and had maybe the earlier kickoff potentially.
All I would say to that is somebody has to play at 4:30, so somebody was going to do that.
That's true.
You're not going to avoid that. Sunday 4:30 is a fixture of the Premier League calendar on a weekend, so somebody's going to play at that point. And it was your turn. Do you know what I mean?
There was trouble after the game, Mark, as well as BT says. There was loads of trouble after the game. Simon said that in our group chat as well.
Well, wasn't there? I mean, there was the footage of, was it out opposite Central Station? Is it still O'Neill's opposite? There's so much. I don't know if it's still O'Neill's opposite Central Station.
There's an Irish bar.
Hasn't been O'Neill since it was PJ and Duncan, Mark. That shows the last time you went out drinking time. But he has got kids. Give him a break.
But yeah, so I mean, that was trashed. And you just saw, I mean, the state of the place left after fans are there. And obviously, it's the first pub you come to pretty much when you step outside the station. So everybody's going to kind of congregate there.
This comment from Carl, again, it goes back to the fixture, Premier League and everything else. The lack of police call was because they were down for the coronation. So there was a lack of police in the area. They've got home Premier League games that still need to be covered. Now, we're not going to get political in terms of the lack of police numbers and everything else. But again, it's like the left-handers know what the right-handers do. And so I really hope that, you know, the club are going to take a stance on this, PK, and they are going to, you know, look into it. But just before we get stuck into trust, I'm just going to address this seating situation in the comments for me. So I am never more on tour. As you know, I work away and I'm in a hotel. Usually I have a nice little desk seat, but I don't tonight. I have a sofa. So I've had to pull said sofa to the screen. So I'm not in the Jeep car. I'm in the banter bus. Strap in, mate. It's going to be a bumpy ride. And Ash, I can assure you I am not comfortable in the slightest, mate. My back is arched like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park, mate. So I'm going to try and get through this as much as I can without some serious pain.
Just before you come on to anything else, just a thought crossed my head as well there, just with regards to the games on the coronation. I'm almost convinced in my head that I've just thought about it for about 30 seconds is I don't think the games would have gone ahead this weekend. They would have probably factored in a break, but for the World Cup. And because we got the World Cup and because we lost weeks of game, I think that's probably been part of the problem. We're at the back end of the season. There's nowhere to move the games to.
Look at Brighton. So Brighton have still got 73 games to play.
I know.
They're going to be champions by May, mate.
They're going to be still playing at the start of next season.
I know, getting beaten at home to Everton.
That's
a valid point, that, Mark.
Yeah, about Graham's got a comment too about the police don't want to pay for, so the clubs don't want to pay the police, and surely that shouldn't be a problem for us, lads. The amount of money we've got, surely.
I think it's the clubs that are responsible for the policing, isn't it?
Sorry. They made it part of it that the clubs had to provide, or they had to pay for the policing at the grounds, because I think once it got into the more aggressive days of the hooligan nature, the police were like, no, you're going to foot the bill for this because it's becoming too expensive for us to do it on our own.
I guess just to talk about television scheduling, etc. The Football Supporters Association get heavily involved with lobbying the Premier League around changing in fixtures and television, etc. You see a lot on, you can subscribe to FSA updates and you get emails, and you can see a lot of emails that fly around and reports that go onto their website around them lobbying the Premier League and the FA, of course, because they are responsible. The FSA is not just the Premier League, it's fans across the UK or fans across the country. And there's too many fixtures have changed at such short notice, where people book trains, people book hotels, and non-refundable.
No FSA consideration for fans.
There's no consideration, no. So it's very, it's not a lot we can do as trusts or supporters, because money talks in football, unfortunately, and Sky pay a lot of money to do what the hell they want with fixtures, I think, across the board. But certainly the FSA lobby the various associations a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Ash, it's called professionalism, which he's about to give you a real dose of in a minute, my friend.
Absolutely. I've got my posh voice on tonight.
That's what we do, Paul, when we talk about serious matters. Now, I won't enjoy it.
We're not posh, by the way, on the board. We're just normal people like you. We are fans.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But listen, we're going to get stuck into the trust right now. So as we mentioned it a couple of times there, Paul's going to talk a little bit about the Newcastle United Supporters Trust. That there are 6 seats, I believe, PK, at the moment available up for election. And 100%. I suppose at a time where people are wondering, what these groups are going to do for them as supporters, and maybe which one to look at. And that we all know, I'm not going to name names, but we all know there's another group that's appeared, in terms of offering supporters another option, shall I say, to the Newcastle United Supporters Trust. And if you can just give us a little bit of information about, the trust and kind of what they do and how it all works, really, Paul. Just for anyone watching who's maybe considering joining.
I guess in the short history of the trust, it was relaunched by Alex Hurst in 2019, primarily to hold the club to account for its, at the time, despicable behaviour under the former hierarchy of Michael James Wallace Ashley. Is that his full name?
You missed Beelzebub.
Beelzebub,
Antichrist. You missed all of that in the middle of it.
I will swear into a Moanka, So, it was to at the end of the day, the trust is for members by its members. That's what it's there for. It's democratically. The big difference between any other club, supporters club, whether that is the NUSC, the newly formed sports club in Newcastle, or the London Mags, or the Belfast Mags, or wherever else in any other city, it's democratically elected, non-for-profit organisation. It's fully audited. It's financially audited on an annual basis. But the most important thing is it's democratically elected. So it is elected by the members, and you have to be a member to become a board member. So not everybody can stand. If you're a member, then you can stand to be a member, but any member can stand for election. Loads of things we've done historically that you probably will like to know about. Some of them really important stuff. The biggest thing, I think, was the pledge scheme. So the pledge scheme was set up by Alex, and it was an amazing thing. And it was effectively, the reason for it was, should the takeover fall through, which it did at one point, as we know, back in 2020, I suppose it was, or early 2021. I think it was more early 2021 when Amanda Staveley came out and said it was dead. Or not Simon Jordan saying it's dead as a dead thing in Dead Man's Land, or whatever it might have been. So actually, he raised through the pledge scheme over £200,000, and it was effectively to continue raising money to buy 8% of ownership of the football club. So there could be a fan's ownership on the board, very similar to what Hearts did. So Hearts became a people-owned football club, which was amazing, and I think they used that model. I don't know, it was before my time on the board, because I was only ratified in January, effectively. So they raised over £200,000, which went to the Sir Bobby Robson Foundation, the Alan Shearer Foundation, the West End Food Bank, and the NUFC Foundation, which is a huge amount of money that's gone to these charitable organisations. So that is probably the biggest, the biggest thing that happened. And it was voted upon. So the trust sent out a survey and asked, what would you like done with this money? There were options. If the majority had said they wanted the money back, the money would have been given back to the people. But no, I don't know what percentage it was, and it's on our website. But the biggest percentage said, let's give it to charity, and then we voted on charities, and those 4 charities were given a lot of money, and then an event was held as a bit of a thank you, I think, which was hosted by the trust, but Alan Shearer and Steve Harper were there. Again, that raised a little bit more money for those charities as well, which is fantastic. But they've done, the trust over the years have done a lot of all things. There was a fan arrested on the last day of the season at Bournemouth a few years ago when Matt Ritchie scored I think it was an injury time goal or injury time equaliser, and he got arrested, and he got unfairly arrested. And there was a crowdfund. The trust organised a crowdfund to get a barrister to sort that chap out, which was great. So that was sorted. Excuse me, I've had man flu since I came back from the Emerald Isle.
It's all that Guinness.
Yeah, struggling a bit. Club liaised with the trust a lot about safe standing in the early part of this season and last season as well. And of course, that's now been announced that there's going to be safe standing in the traditional Gallagher Corner next season. What else do you want to know? Well, you'll remember that there was a big issue with access to the ground at Ellen Road last January. I was there actually as a fan. And there was some real safety concerns about the access and the entrance because the turnstile broke down and the way that they were doing COVID checks at the time. And it became really dangerous for people. We were in the ground much earlier, which is great. So the trust did an awful lot with West Yorkshire Police and the club to do some investigating and collating eyewitness accounts, etc. And very similarly, we did that with Hillsborough this January in the FA Cup as well, when it was publicly stated that it was incredibly dangerous getting into Leppings Lane end. So that was then reported back, and in the end, the safety commissioners have reduced the capacity in that end now to make it a little bit safer. And I saw a really sarcastic tweet by an away fan. I think it was a Sheffield Wednesday fan, actually, for the game that they had, the last home game, and it was all quiet and serene and safe, etc. And then Craig Hope, just replied back and said, well, yeah, that's because the reports that came out helped to reduce the capacity to make it safer.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of little things like that you sort of don't realise that we do, but, we're heavily involved with that. Cliff, who's a board member, he liaised with the Health and Safety Committee, I think, at Hillsborough and sat in on meetings with them and with South Yorkshire Police for Sheffield. And we collated all that. We collated from members. There must have been 100+ emails that came into the board inbox. Every single one of those was responded to, and every single one was collated and sent back to the relevant parties. So we did a lot in terms of that. We're doing a lot in terms of the communication with the club on the fan advisory board. So you'll have seen Tracy Crouch's independent review into football, and that was reported back to every single football club across the UK. And the recommendation was that each club created a fan advisory board. Now we're hopeful that we will be invited to sit on that advisory board along with United with Pride and along with Newcastle United Disabled Supporters Association. I think it is. I can't remember what the acronym is for it. So we are fully expecting to be invited onto that board so we can talk with the club on a regular basis around key issues. And of course, the biggest thing in regards to us is there's never been a better communication with the club. I mean, the board used to have, should we call it sporadic conversations with Lee Charnley. Never got anywhere near Mike Ashley. Sporadic conversations with Lee Charnley, and he would give you fill you full of shit, let's be honest, and nothing would ever come of any of those conversations. The communication with the club now has never been better. The night before the takeover, and I think I can share this, Greg shared this last week on another on an enemy show.
Oh, that's okay. No, Pete's a good guy. I was on the Loaded Mag with Pete. Pete's a good guy.
So we're on Loaded Mag last week. Greg got a phone call the night before the takeover, and it was a number he didn't recognise. He looked at his phone and he said, "Who the hell's that?" I mean, I don't know about you.
I know we don't answer them.
I don't know how to answer them. It's probably people chasing me for money. Anyway, he answered the phone and he said, "Hello." No, it was Greg speaking. He said, because Greg was the chairman of the trust at that time, chairperson of the trust at that time. He said, "Oh, it's Murdad and Amanda here." So we had a conversation with Murdo Lamada. They rang him. Must have got his number from George Colkin or one of the other journalists, I suspect, who we've got very good relationships as well with. And he had a conversation about the takeover that was going through the following day. They basically told the trust that the takeover was going through. Now, obviously, you're sworn to secrecy and certain things like that. I mean, I don't know how I would have slept that night, but like Keith Downey in the interview that we did as Evermore with Keith on him being told the night before the takeover was going through, and he just didn't sleep that night. He didn't know how he was going to communicate it to the masses. So it was very similar to that. Sorry, Chris.
I was just going to say, Paul, just if you pause for a breath a second for the trust, you got plenty to tell us, which is great. But that actually, what you just very much to me, what you just said there kind of dovetails well with that question from Graham, TC Travels, Mark, doesn't it? If you just want to take that on with Paul in terms of that relationship.
Yeah, so I mean that was it. I think some of the things you've covered, and I guess some of the stuff you cover with the trust, they're things that you hope to never have to do, the fan getting arrested and stuff. But a lot of it is what contact do you have with the club? What is, like Graham he says, what is the relationship now? And obviously, for them to have contacted you or contacted Greg before the takeover was actually confirmed is a massive thing, and something where that the previous regime is gone because there was no contact, there was no interaction,
there was nothing. And oh god, I'm just diving in again. I'm really sorry, Mark. So basically, let me give you a chalk and cheese scenario. The trust used to have to shame the club publicly through the press. So if you remember, through COVID, Newcastle United were the last club to refund fans their season ticket money.
That was bad. Very bad.
Or allow them to carry over their payments into the following season, which a lot of fans did. I, as a season ticket holder and a fan, not a trust board member, I transferred my credits into the following season. So I think it was last season, I effectively had paid for a year in advance. They weren't going to do it, but complaints after complaints through members, through the board. We took it to the press, and the press published it. It went in the majority of the not just the local but the national media, and it shamed them into doing that. Now that's not that's not a relationship, is it? That is holding a club to account for crap that they have done that because they don't give a shit about the fans. Now,
sorry, Paul, go on, finish what you said, mate, before I've got another question to ask you.
To answer Graham's Travels, the relationship between the club and the trust now are brilliant. So we were invited to hold our AGM, which was in January at St James's Park, which we did. Sarah Medcoff, the head, I'm sorry, Sarah, if you're watching and I get your title wrong, head of supporter services. She was in attendance with the new head of people, or HR director, I suppose, would be her common known title. They were there and they were fielding and fending questions from the 100-ish or so members that were in attendance at the AGM. So the relationship with the club now is better than anything. There we go. Lee was at that AGM, of course, as a former board member. So he'll be able to pipe up if he wants to in the comments about that. Now he's finished his garden. He must have had a lot of rain.
The sun's out, Mr. Forster, so I can understand why the garden's been done, mate. Fair play.
So there's a brand new supporter liaison officer, chap called Matt Willis. I don't think it's the chap that was married to Emma. It's probably a fairly common name, but Matt's the new...
It's not the guy who crashed the wedding then. It's not him.
No, maybe not. He's the new SLO at the club, supporter liaison officer. Now, he's a Newcastle fan. So he's already spoken to Charlotte on the board. And he said, he is 51% Newcastle United employee, 49% fan. Now that's brilliant. And he is open. He's asked to meet the board, every one of us on the board. So as soon as the elections are done and it's ratified and people are co-opted onto the board, we will be having a roundtable meeting with him. We're hoping to have a roundtable meeting with people higher than him at the club. We'd like to meet Darren Eales, and I think he is open to that. But at this point, until we have the full newly shaped board, not much point, because we all want to meet him and talk about the relationship that the trust will have with the club. Nobody else is going to have that relationship, just us. So I guess that's the differentiator, Graham. And and I think that's where the relationship now is. That's why it's never been better time to be a member. There's never been a better time to join the board, because the communication with the club's phenomenal.
Yeah, just to, before we get into, you know, how easy it is to join, and obviously how you would put yourself forward for election. Just you know, going back to kind of Matt Willis as well. I know in the past, you know, fan forums were tried with Lee Charnley. I think am I right in thinking there was one that happened and it was all just a bit of BS, and after that nothing happened after that? Is that something that the trust are looking to do just for members only, or is that something that they're trying to encourage the club to do for more of a wider fan base, a bit like somewhere where people can come and maybe the tickets can be put to the charities that we discussed earlier on, or the foundation and things like that?
The club held a fans forum before one of the cup games. Lee was there as a representative of the board.
Yeah.
So if Lee's still watching, he will know what cup game that was, because I remember him crapping his pants that he wasn't going to be able to qualify for cup final tickets.
That's just standard Lee, though, isn't it? Really,
not buying that ticket, right? But he was there, and there was representatives from the trust, from the Disabled Supporters Association, from United with Pride, and from other groups as well. So there was a lot of people in that sort of round table where Darren Eales was there.
Yeah,
I'm sure Dan Ashworth was there, but I think things like that will be headed up by Sarah and will be headed up by Matt. We're planning on doing something at the Sage, but then decided to push it back towards the end of the season, because a lot of organisation. But yeah, that is a lot of stuff that we will be talking to the club about. Obviously, when we have our trust heads on, everything that we represent is for our members. Our members are fans, but it's for the members. But guess what? And I know there's a question in there that you're going to bring up from Sean. Costs you buttons to become a member of the trust and allows you a voice.
Yeah. On that point, Mark, if you just want to pull up Sean's question, then if we can just put that to Paul. I mean, you know, how much is it to become the member, Paul? And obviously, you know, where is the link to do that? Because Sean obviously sounds like he might be a bit interested in.
Yeah, I think Mark's got the link. If you kindly bring that up, that would be wonderful, please.
I will.
Thank you very much. There we go. NUFCtrust.co.uk/join-the-trust. So it's a £1 joining fee that buys you a single share in the trust, because it is a members-owned cooperative, and it's £1 a year. So it's less than the price of a pint. Less than a pint of it's less than a packet of fruit pastels these days, I think.
I think so it is actually.
So it's dirt cheap, and for that you get private member emails. God, that sounds terrible. You get member emails, you get your surveys, you get invites to member only events that you can buy tickets for, and all that money goes back into the running of the event or whatever, but goes back into the trust, because the trust still needs to financially be viable. It can't just go bankrupt. There's things to pay for, there's emails to pay for, there's the website upkeep to pay for, and that was my very first task, actually, was the website. So I created with a web developer the new website, which is functional and works, which is great.
Maybe you can work with the club on their website, because that is garbage. That's something you can maybe put into the survey for the members, because that is I
think that'll go in the survey. It's the ticketing website's not it's not great, to be honest.
It's dreadful.
Yeah, no, they don't do there's no lifetime members. Oh, they're all lifetime. I'm a lifetime member, actually, because I paid £10 a few years ago. I think it was 2019 when they gave that option. It's just £1 a year, and you just set it up with PayPal, and it comes out once a year.
I think Graham did the same, Paul, didn't he? He says there his thoughts are that he did pay my tenner, he said, which gave me lifetime membership for the good of the club and to help grow better, to have one group rather than starting all different groups. I know you don't want to be drawn on that, PK. I mean, my take on that, you don't have to answer that, Paul. My take on that is I agree with you, Graham. I think we have to be united as a fan base, and I think if you start branching out of different groups, I do think there is a bit of an issue there. Mark, did you have a question you just wanted to put to Paul there?
Yeah, I mean, you talked obviously about the membership thing. I guess you then have a vote, don't you, for when you put out surveys, or you put out.
Correct.
You get to be a part of the questions that maybe the club are putting through the trust that they want an answer to. So I'm assuming
exactly that.
It's that's the kind of point of that sort of group, where if the club are going to come to you, then you want them to put that out to you. Was it 10,500 members that you have? Then you want that feedback from everybody there. So if you want, I guess, if you want to have your say, you want the club to listen to you, then it's to join the trust. And you're right, it's peanuts really.
To have that voice. Yeah, to have that voice. There are Graham's. If you can bring Graham's part 2 question up if you like, because I can fend that and answer that. Part 2, for some reason, the trust seemed to have a bad name or blame, example being cup final tickets. The reality is the club was not ready to make a cup final this year. They had no plan for ticketing whatsoever. It wasn't myself. Alex was spoken to by somebody in the club, I won't mention who that was, and said, this is what we are planning on doing for cup final tickets. And it was a replication, I believe, of Liverpool's ticketing system for their League Cup final the previous year. And because it's different to FA Cup finals, there's more tickets for League Cup, of course, than FA Cups, 31,000 against 14, 15, something ridiculous like that. They just weren't ready for it. And we got very little notice. And so we couldn't go out to members and say to members, what do you think about this? There wasn't the time. There was literally overnight, I think. And actually, if you go to the website, Alex sent put a 2 or 3 minute video together of the communication that happened between himself and the club around Wembley ticketing. And I think that he or we as a trust broadly agreed with the ticketing policy. People that complained didn't like it. People didn't get tickets because they didn't qualify, unfortunately. You can't please everybody. You couldn't accommodate every single person in that ground or in St. James's Park to get a ticket for the cup final. So it was a difficult one. The people that don't like the trust, you know what? Make a difference. Come and stand to be elected to the board. Come and make a difference. Come and have a voice. Put yourself up for election. I've got no problems with that whatsoever.
And how easy is that then, Paul? I mean, on that subject, obviously the 6 seats available. How do the members go about doing that? How do they put themselves forward? Yeah.
So first and foremost, you need to be a member to apply to be a member of the board of the Supporters Trust. There will be basically at the moment we are waiting in terms of timescales. First and foremost, we are waiting for the allocated FSA independent regulator. So it's not us that touches it. It's done by an independent regulator. When I applied for it, it went to a gentleman who's on the FSA or affiliated with the FSA, who's an Exeter City fan. Jolly nice chap, actually. But he's on holiday, so he can't do it this time, unfortunately. So we're just waiting to be allocated the FSA independent regulator. You then download 2 forms. The first form is your personal information, and you need to be nominated or backed up by 2 members. So you need to know 2 members who can vouch for you. That form with a supporting form of application as to why you believe or why you would like to be on the board of directors at the trust. That then gets emailed to the relevant person. The checks are done in terms of, you're ratified and verified that the 2 members have backed you and you haven't just made their names up, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck or whatever. And then the system that's used is a website or a portal called Election Runner. Now, we don't see any of this. So we don't see who applies. We don't get a veto. We don't get anything because we are just members. An Election Runner then goes through everything. There's hustings. You would upload a video of your support, and then effectively the members vote the board members in.
So they decide who they want on the board to make that difference. Yeah,
absolutely. The members democratically elect their board of directors. So it's fairly straightforward.
I'm assuming you don't have to have been a member for any particular length of time. You could literally join now and then put yourself forward effectively.
That's right.
Got the 2 people to back.
That's right. Yeah. So if you weren't a member of the trust and you wanted to stand for the board, you pay your £1 to get a share. You pay your £1 a year, which effectively running costs for the trust, and then
Ash just joined there. There you go.
You can download the information. I appreciate that, Ash. Thank you very much. Yes, new phone voice. Give me a call. You got my number. If you want to stand for the board, you are very welcome. I'll give you a few hints and tips.
He needs to work on that phone voice. He sounds a bit like
absolutely.
he's about to kill Nev Campbell or something with his phone voice at the minute. Actually, he needs to work on that.
What will happen is, as soon as we are ready to go, so we think the process start to finish will be between 3 and 4 weeks. So we wanted to get it done quickly. Okay, so it'll be 2 weeks to get your applications in. The verifications will be done, and then everything will go through election runner from there. But it will all be sent out. You don't need photo ID to vote, Carl. But you will. It won't take very long, basically, for it to be done, and then it will be announced via, again, member emails. Everything will be uploaded on the website. So if you're not a member, you can see. You see what the forms are, but there's no point in applying to be on the board if you're not a member, because it gets double and treble checked by the independent regulator anyway, which is not us. Yeah. The only way that we get to see who the applicants are because we are all members on the board. We can vote for, it's one member, one vote. So we get the vote as well as to who we would like to see join us based on the hustings effectively.
Yeah, I think the question I probably got, Paul, it's not a loaded question or anything else. What is the kind of the goal of the trust? We've talked about for the members, by the members, for the members, that kind of a thing. I mean, what is the kind of, I suppose, the mission statement of the trust in terms of, if you're a Newcastle United fan right now and the club's going in amazing places, and and you want to go with it, you might have a real mix of concerns and priorities and everything else. What would you say to that person as a member of the trust who would encourage that person to be involved and maybe stand and maybe be elected? What would you say is the main thing the trust are looking to do for Newcastle United supporters right now?
It's very much to keep that link between the club and its members and its fans, I suppose. Yes, we represent our members, but we represent fans of football clubs. There were many emails came in on Wembley ticketing, and a lot of those people weren't members. We've got the database, we can cross-check it. And
they're not season ticket holders either, PK. A lot of them aren't season ticket holders.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of my esteemed board colleagues might know what percentage are season ticket holders. But I think a lot of them are not. Yeah, maybe it's a question that we will ask in the end of year survey. Probably
give it a mark for 5 minutes. He'll do your slide and everything. Give it a mark.
I'll get Mark to do a pie chart for me. That'd be really good.
Get him in there.
So it's the mission statement's on the website, and I don't know it. And I really should. I'm really sorry.
I'm not trying to trip you up. But
it's trip me up, you twat. It's very much that. You know what it is? It's to hold the club to account for decisions that they make. So if they make really bad decisions on ticketing, it's to hold them to account for that and make them aware that they're making bad decisions, because they are, dare I say, they're a football club and they're a business. Okay, it's an entertainment industry, but the fans should be at the heart. And Amanda Staveley and the board, they know that fans are at the heart of Newcastle United. Is that also
just to bring you? I think it might be. We've had a couple of them ever since they won. They've all piped up all of a sudden. Just wait till City lifting that title, it'll all go quiet again. Mark, just to bring you in on this one. I mean, I think what PK is saying there is bang on. Really, that this club is on a massive upward trajectory. And they're going to go to places that a lot of those Newcastle fans, didn't even know could ever be. I mean, even little things like the Sam Fender gig, Mark, as well, that suddenly appeared. Newcastle United don't do a great deal of that thing historically. That happens a bit further down the A19 usually. So it's great to see different kind of diversifying, isn't it, Mark? I mean, that's a great thing, I think, for the club to not forget the roots as the head to those high heights.
Yeah, I think. Well, we've kind of seen, and it has to. I think it has to do with the surroundings, doesn't it? The ground's criminally underused for stuff like that. Anyway, I mean, it always used to. We always used to get concerts at times, and we've had big ones there over recent years, but it does get properly underused for stuff like that. And another way to bring in money to the club, and I know that's not a trust issue, but that's a club issue that they should be looking to utilize stuff like that as much as possible, because that just brings in more and more revenue for them going forwards. And I've gone on that road and I've completely forgotten the way I was going with it. What was the other question I was going to? Oh, that was it. So I know one of our lads, we had Adam on for quite some time, and you talked about being season ticket holders, and you don't have to be a season ticket holder to be a club. It's not just restricted to UK-based supporters either, because you have members from across the globe too. So
Absolutely, you can be a board member anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, and we embrace that. You know, it's Newcastle United is a global brand, isn't it? Or will be a bigger global brand.
Yeah,
I think it already is.
Yeah.
I mean,
board members from anywhere around the world, absolutely. You know, board meetings. We're not going to ask someone from the States to come over for a board meeting. It would be done online. They usually are done online, and they're once a month, with a sort of mid-month catch up, I suppose, as well. So yeah, you can be based anywhere you want. Absolutely no problem.
Yeah. That's very true. I must admit, I do agree with John's comments there. I don't want American football in St James's Park either. It does wreck the pitch. I'm with you on that one, mate. Mark's a big NFL guy, so he probably disagree with me. But,
I draw the line. Let's ruin Tottenham. Well, Tottenham. I was going to say let's ruin Tottenham's pitch, but it doesn't. They've got a second pitch that they roll out for.
They do that. They do that every time they step out to play, mate. To Spurs. So I don't think they need any more help from the NFL to ruin their pitch. They certainly ruined their league position, don't they? I'm sure the Arsenal fan will love that.
That's just one for the Arsenal fans.
I was just going to say, just for you in the comments for the Arsenal fan, but it doesn't say much about Arsenal fan TV on a Wednesday night. Maybe they're having the night off, so maybe that's why he's dipped over here. But nice to see you regardless. But yeah, I think I suppose closing on this PK, because we've nearly done my usual hour. I think it's really good for me that to see that Newcastle United have got I've got this kind of interaction with the club, as you rightly say, that it was never there before. The trust was almost set up like a revolution. It was like the Hunger Games or something. You were the Mockingjay taking on Mike Ashley, whereas now
I think it was to bash the club and hold them to account.
It was,
so
it's
the
not
trust
like that
responsibility.
Anymore.
No, it's still to hold them to account. But
yeah.
Now it's to work in partnership for the benefit of our members. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. But I think that's great, PK. And just a reminder there again, scrolling across the bottom of the screen, if you're interested in obviously checking out the trust, by all means, click that link and follow Paul's guidelines there of how you become a member, and obviously you'll be able to see how you could stand for an election. So, but that's been really interesting, Paul. Thank you so much for taking us through kind of what's going on with the Newcastle United Supporters Trust. That's us all done.
Thank you for having us on that.
Yeah, no problem. That's us all done for this week. Don't worry, PK will be back swearing and shouting next time he's on the channel. He's just doing his due diligence tonight. So the PK will be back swearing and shouting. If we get beat by Sam Allardyce, you will be effing and jeffing on this channel. I guarantee you next week, mate. But I hope to God that doesn't happen. But so until then, that's us signing off. Let's keep supporting that team. We'll call United. I'll be back with a match preview, and we'll be back, Mark, with a post-match review of the Leeds game early Saturday morning. So, make sure you stay tuned for that, guys. As I mentioned at the start, if you haven't already, click subscribe. I'd love you to come and join us. Loads of room for you at Evermore. We have the 2 live shows. This one you just watch on Wednesdays, Monday nights, and pop-up videos left, right, and centre. So keep it Evermore, guys. Smash that button. Like the video before Mark tells me off. Helps get it around YouTube. Helps the channel grow. And we'll be back next time. I'll catch you later, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.